Hello, everyone, and welcome to our newest live episode of Coffee Talk in the Athletic Training Room. I am your host, Brandon Platt. It's great to see everyone again. The last couple weeks, we've kind of got into some, um, the best way to put it, some heavier topics, I guess. I got away from the injuries and things a little bit, so want to move back to that a little bit. But if you haven't had a chance to go back and watch our previous 2 or 3 episodes on some heavier topics, certainly encourage you to do that, as I think it can really be insightful, and I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on those if you haven't already. You could feel free to comment on those wherever you're listening. If you're listening on podcast, feel free to email me at athleteadvise@gmail.com. You can also obviously comment on YouTube if you're watching the YouTube videos, or comment if you're in the Athletic Training Room Facebook group. You can comment directly on the post. But I think all of those are worth the discussion. As I mean, let's face it, all of our episodes are worth the discussion. So certainly something I think worth listening to. But today I want to shift gears a little bit, because hey, let's face it. I mean, we're in the business of treating people. We're in the business of treating injuries, as well as obviously advocating for ourselves and wearing all the hats that we do. And so today, let's get back to the injury side of things. Um, I think it's important, first of all, to acknowledge our sponsors. Thank you so much to our sponsors, for all they do for the athletic training room. We couldn't do what we do in the athletic training room and really put that kind of group together, without their help. So we certainly appreciate everything that they do. First of all, Essity Sports Medicine Division, Actimove, BSN, Essity, and Actimove is a trusted name in sports injury care prevention. As a supplier and manufacturer of Coach Tape, Elasticon, Zonus, and other industry-leading products, Actimove empowers athletes and active individuals to perform at their best while staying protected. Visit actimove.us to learn more about their full range of reliable, high-quality sports medicine solutions that keep you moving forward. Trusted for a reason. Also brought to you by Firefly Recovery. Firefly Recovery, your trusted partner in the journey to wellness. Whether you're an athlete looking for optimal performance, someone looking for relief from daily discomfort, or an athletic trainer looking for the best solution for your athlete's recovery, be it from injury or from competition, Firefly Recovery provides cutting-edge solutions to accelerate your recovery and reduce pain by increasing blood flow. Visit recoveryfirefly.com or click the link in the description down below, and you can see everything that Firefly has to offer, their innovation technology, and how it can help you recover faster, feel and perform your best. Illuminate your path to recovery with Firefly. And last but not least, let's not forget our amazing new sponsor, recently joined us within the last couple weeks. That's Sway Medical. Join the thousands of athletic trainers and healthcare providers across the United States and the globe that use Sway for their baseline testing, sideline evaluations, and return to play decision making, a mobile objective measuring tool for the entire injury lifestyle. You can check out the link in the description to learn more about what Sway can offer your team and your department to help keep your athletes healthy. Of course, if you're an adventurer like me, you're going to want to check out Land Pirate LLC. Land Pirate is the ultimate destination for adventurous, high quality apparel for your summer adventures. Not only will you find unique, bold clothing for your urban or outdoor adventures, but guess what? You'll be making a difference in the world too, as Land Pirate donates 10% of all sales to charity, a variety of charities, and they do some great work. You can visit the link in the description and use promo code DATGIRLDAD. That's DAT Girl Dad, and it will also be in the description. Use that code, you'll receive an additional 15% discount on your next purchase. So make sure to unleash your inner explorer with Land Pirate. So, like I said, I want to talk about get back to injuries today, and so obviously our sponsor, Firefly Recovery, is going to play into that quite a bit as we get into this. Um, and it's interesting. You're reading today. Obviously, there's an article came out today, and there's been some public discussion and obviously publication about an injury at the French Open that has taken place that is very high profile, and that is one of the best tennis players in the world, one of the best tennis players in history, love him or hate him, Novak Djokovic. And obviously incredibly talented, incredibly big part of the French Open as well as any Grand Slam every year. So for you tennis fans out there, it's a devastating blow not to be able to see him play and be in the semifinals. But he withdrew from the French Open yesterday, um, which I guess in France would have been today. Anyway, I don't do well with time zones. Point being, with a right knee injury, and it's come out that it is a tear of the medial meniscus of the right knee. Now, what they don't specify, what I haven't seen, and if anybody has seen it, please feel free to chime in and clarify what the severity of the injury actually is. Um, be it if it's just a corner, if it's if it's a tear that's going to require a repair, if it's something they're just going to trim out. I don't know what the treatment's going to be. Obviously, his age is going to play a factor, but he's still in the prime of his career. So, we'll see. As we know, if we go through and they repair the meniscus, it's going to be a much longer recovery than if you go trim it out. Does he wait until after the season, etc.? Obviously, the risks involved in trimming we all are aware of, as far as later issues later on, arthritis, etc. But that's not necessarily what I want to talk about. What I'd like to talk about is the fact that he came out yesterday, and this is not a fault of anyone's, but I thought it was really interesting and worth bringing up on here, which is why I'm talking about it today. And that is the fact that he stated that he had been dealing with some issues previously. So here was the statement. Here was the statement put out by Djokovic. And I quote, "I'm really sad to announce I have to withdraw from Roland Garros. I played with my heart and gave my all in yesterday's match, and unfortunately, due to a medial meniscus tear in my right knee, my team and I had to make a tough decision, and after careful consideration and consultation." That was in regards to him withdrawing from the tournament. Initially, they announced a withdrawal and said an MRI scan early on Tuesday had revealed the full extent of the injury, which is the medial meniscus tear. Now, the interesting part to me, first of all, he blamed the slippery court for the injury. Okay, maybe, perhaps. But the interesting thing was he goes on to say, and I quote, "I don't know what'll happen tomorrow or after tomorrow, if I'll be able to step out on the court and play. I hope so." That was right after the injury happened. But he said, for the last couple weeks, I have had, I would say, slight discomfort. I would call it that way in the right knee, but I haven't had an injury that would be concerning me at all. Essentially, he's saying that he hasn't had something that has been lingering to the point where he couldn't play. He thought it was just kind of aches and pains, etc. Now, I've been playing a few tournaments with it. No issues until today. The question I have for everyone is, how many times in our careers do we see something, an injury that happens, and then we go look back and we say, okay, well, how did this happen? What's the cause, right? Because ultimately what we're trying to do as clinicians is we're trying to figure out the root cause of all these issues, because if we figure out the root cause, we can treat it and maybe it won't happen again. Meniscus tears can happen acutely. Obviously, the meniscus can get worn out over time. There's a lot of different factors that come into play here. And you're playing tennis, you're cutting, you're stopping, you're turning, you're pivoting, etc. You're playing on different types of courts, grass, hard court, clay, etc. Right? So there's a lot of different factors that come into play, as well as, just the constant pounding on your knees from playing tennis for so long. Is this a completely preventable injury? Maybe not, but I guess the cause factor is what I'm just contemplating here. I don't have the answers. I don't know. I'm speculating, and maybe that's a dangerous thing to be doing. But what I will say is that if he's had discomfort for a period of time, up until this last couple of weeks, he's played a few tournaments with it, and it hasn't been an issue. It becomes a chicken and the egg thing for me when I start thinking about things from an athletic training standpoint. And that is the discomfort an early manifestation of the symptoms of the disease, be it the meniscus tear, or is the discomfort cause for the eventual tear of the meniscus? And here's what I mean by that. If the discomfort he was feeling is not necessarily the meniscus and it's something else, muscular nature, MCL, who knows, right? Obviously not something big enough to keep him from playing. Maybe the meniscus was torn, it hadn't flipped yet, and it hadn't caught, whatever, and he could play through it, etc. I don't know. Right? If it's the cause being that he maybe changed something in his biomechanics to account for that, or something in his biomechanics changed, which caused more stress on the medial meniscus or more stress on the medial aspect of the knee, which then caused the tear because there's more compression on the meniscus or more rotational shear force, that's an issue. And in that case, is this preventable? Maybe not in the long term, but certainly in the short term, right? Because then it becomes, okay, if I rest and I figure this out now, I can play later. And that's the message, I think, that's really hard to get across to athletes sometimes, is that rest is sometimes the best medicine. Recovery is that if you're having pain somewhere, it's your body telling you something's wrong. Now, does that mean we need to be holding out every athlete that has pain ever just because? No, but what it does mean is we need to dig deeper than just, one, discounting the problem, and two, we need to dig deeper in how do we rehabilitate this injury and how is this injury going to affect other things. And that's where the kinetic chain comes in. If you watch the early episodes of what was then called Beyond the Evaluation, early on on my YouTube channel, the first episode I did was about kinetic chain, just the general background of the kinetic chain. It's a longer episode, but I think it gives some pretty good insights into the kinetic chain and how it can affect the body and affect injuries over time. If we think about the kinetic chain, and if there's an issue with the knee and we change our biomechanics and now there's more issues with the knee, it's the same thing if he had ankle pain and he changed his biomechanics and all of a sudden now he has a knee injury. Is the knee injury a one-off? Maybe. Is the knee injury because of the ankle? Maybe. And so, Novak Djokovic aside, when we're clinicians, we need to be looking at the full picture, the full body, the full scope of the athlete. So often we get so busy and so wrapped up in what we're doing that we only look at the injury. And I get it. In season, it's very easy to do that, right? We're trying to get the athlete back on the field. We're taking care of the problem at hand. Now, this is separate because obviously it's a knee and then it ended up being a knee. Okay, fine. But we don't think about what the long-term repercussions are, and we don't think about what can this do biomechanically to us. And that's the one thing I want everybody to focus on today. If you take something away from this episode, I want you to think about in your practice, how are you looking at an injury or looking at a pain an athlete is having and thinking in the long term? And that's where something like Response or Firefly can come in, where we can increase blood flow and increase recovery and decrease those pains. And now if we're decreasing the pain because we're recovering, if it's musculature, right? If it's a muscular issue and it's a fatigue factor, well, now we can help the muscles recover and we can help the body act the way it's supposed to. Now biomechanically we're doing things correctly or the way we're used to doing them. And so we don't put stress on undue areas, and now we don't have issues down the road. We're preventing as much as possible, which is obviously one of our pillars of athletic training, and that is to prevent injuries. So think about that as you're kind of going through your day today. Is your athletes are treating injuries, summer break, awesome, great time to catch up on some of this, right? If you have athletes on campus, bring them in. Hey, let's do a full evaluation. Let's do a full workup. not just on the injuries you have, not just on the pains you're having, but how is this affecting the rest of your body? Let's check this out. Let's evaluate these things. Let's keep an eye on these things, because here's what it's going to cause or can cause down the road, and educate your athletes, because in the off season is the time to try to deal with this stuff, and implement correctives. In the off season is the time to implement this with your strength conditioning coaches. In the off season is the time to figure out where the strength deficits lie that are causing these pains that may cause biomechanical issues down the road. Right. So yes, in this case, it's Novak Djokovic having a medial meniscus tear. We don't know all the details, but what I'd like to do is take that second statement from him that he's been having issues with the knee or pain in the knee for a couple of weeks, and really let that make you think: is this the case for him? Again, I don't know, but it stands to reason that we as athletic trainers have a responsibility to our athletes to think about these things long term. And these are the things I know I've harped on coaches and administrators for the last couple of weeks. And these are things coaches and administrators don't have to think about, because it's our job. This is our job. It's our job to think about the long-term repercussions of this. Just one more example I'll give you before I go. And I know I've talked a lot about tennis, and I've talked about just the lower extremity, but how does the lower extremity then, an injury to the ankle or to the knee? I'm having pain in my ankle. I'm having pain in my knee. It's a picture, right? And it's my, doesn't matter which leg. Let's say it's my stride leg. You may think, okay, fine. Can you land? Yeah. Does it hurt when you land? A little bit, but I can do this, and it changes things. How does that affect the shoulder? Now, all of a sudden you come back, and that pitcher has a shoulder issue. And let's take it a step further. The pitcher has let's say it's a right-handed pitcher, has a left hip issue. Okay. Has a left hip problem, tight, can't rotate through it, can't open up. It's tight when I do this, but if I land slightly more open, it doesn't bother me. I can play. Okay. How is that going to affect my shoulder? Comes back a month later with a slap tear, comes back a month later with tendonitis, comes back a month later with rotator cuff issues, whatever, especially anterior or even posterior. And we go back and look, and we think, oh man, if I would have addressed that hip issue with correctives early, maybe I could have prevented the shoulder. Why? Can't get through the pitch, can't rotate, forcing to open up, arms dragging. Now we have stress in the anterior aspect, and now I can't slow the arm down the way I normally would slow the arm down with my whole body, because I'm compensating. So now all of a sudden I have posterior pain in the shoulder, and I have a strain of the posterior cuff, right? So it's not just lower extremity, upper extremity. It's across the chain, and having an understanding of kinetic chain with any injury, be it a meniscal injury that happens, and understanding why it happens so we can correct the issue so it doesn't put stress either after a repair or after a debridement, doesn't put stress down later, right? And we can eliminate or at least decrease the chances of some of those injuries down the road as a result of the surgery. Or maybe we can work through it and we can decrease the stress if they're having that pain. Okay, let's decrease some stress on the knee, or let's decrease some stress on the ankle by dealing with stuff up the chain, or decrease stress on the hip by dealing with stuff down the chain, or decrease stress on the shoulder by dealing with the lower extremity, etc. All these things play into everything. So if you're only focused on one area of the body, caution you, you're going to run into problems. I promise you're going to run into problems. And just really think about these kinds of things the next time you have an athlete come in for an injury. And yes, evaluate what the injury is. Get to the bottom of it. Do your evaluation of the knee, of the hip, and but then of the shoulder, whatever it happens to be. But then look down the chain. And it could be somebody who comes in with shoulder pain that didn't tell you about the hip. Every time I do a shoulder eval, I always look at the hip too. So think about that, because I think it's really important. One example, but I think it's really important to think about, especially when we're talking about the overall health and safety long term of our athletes, which is what we should really be concerned about. Good luck to all the teams still playing in Oklahoma City. Good luck to all the teams still playing in their it's softball, I'm sorry. Good luck to all the teams still playing in their championship seasons as we wind down the spring championships in college. Congratulations, graduates, high school graduates. Congratulations, high school athletic trainers. You made it through another year. And good luck to everyone playing in super regionals in baseball this weekend. And we'll be watching and cheering for you, athletic trainers out there, to keep them safe and keep them healthy. Thank you again to our sponsors. Check out the links in the description to learn more about our amazing sponsors. If you're a company that wants to reach over 2,000 athletic trainers multiple times per week, let us know. Reach out to our marketing wing, 40 Digital Media, 40digitalmedia@gmail.com. You can also find us on you can also find them on pretty much any social media platform, or you can reach out to me directly at athleteadvise@gmail.com to request a meeting. But we'd love to have you on board. So just see what kind of value we have to offer. I know that our sponsors can attest to the value that we were able to provide as a sponsorship in the athletic training room to increase your reach to athletic trainers. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Hope you get through Thursday and Friday okay, and and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.